What if I told you that your darkest moment right now, the one that's crushing you, keeping you awake at night, making you question everything, what if that moment is actually preparing you for your greatest transformation? Carl Jung, one of history's most profound psychologists, discovered something that challenges everything we think we know about suffering. He called it a cosmic law universal, principle that operates with the precision of gravity itself. This isn't about toxic positivity. This isn't about just think happy thoughts. This is about a fundamental truth woven into the fabric of existence itself. After the deepest suffering comes the biggest reward. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. Why your breakdown might actually be a breakthrough in disguise. And most importantly, how to navigate your darkest moments to emerge stronger than you ever imagined possible. But first, if you're going through something difficult right now, drop it in the comments. You're not alone, and this video is for you. Chapter 1. The Paradox of Suffering. Let me share something that will shift your entire perspective. Jung spent decades studying mythology, religion, alchemy, and the human psyche. And across every culture, every era, every spiritual tradition, he found the same pattern repeating endlessly. The hero's journey always descends into darkness before ascending into light. Think about it. Every story that's ever moved you follows this pattern. Harry Potter lost his parents and lived in a cupboard. Luke Skywalker's family was killed. The Buddha had to leave his palace and confront suffering. Jesus descended into hell before resurrection. But here's what most people miss. These aren't just stories. They're maps. Jung called them archetypes universal, patterns that exist in something. He termed the collective unconscious. Jung discovered that certain experiences, certain patterns, are hardwired into humanity. And one of the most fundamental patterns is this: transformation requires destruction. Rebirth requires death. The greatest rewards follow the deepest suffering. Let me get personal for a moment. 3 years ago, I hit rock bottom. Lost my job, ended a long-term relationship, and questioned everything I thought I knew about myself. I remember sitting in my apartment at 3 a.m., feeling like I'd failed at life. But looking back now, that moment of total collapse was the most valuable experience of my life. It forced me to confront who I really was, not who I pretended to be. It destroyed the false version of myself that I'd been maintaining for years. Jung would say I descended into my shadow, and that descent saved my life. But why does it work this way? Why can't we just have the rewards without the suffering? Chapter 2. The Psychology of Enantiodromia. Jung had a term for this cosmic law, enantiodromia. It's a Greek word meaning the tendency of things to turn into their opposite. Jung borrowed this from the ancient philosopher Heraclitus, who understood that everything in nature moves in cycles. Day becomes night. Winter becomes spring. Death becomes life. But Jung took this further. He discovered that this principle doesn't just govern nature, it governs the human psyche. When you push something to its extreme, it naturally swings to the opposite. Think about it in your own life. Have you ever noticed that? The person who tries to be perfectly good often explodes in unexpected ways. The workaholic eventually burns out and can't work at all. The people pleaser who never says no eventually becomes completely isolated. Someone obsessed with control faces chaos. This is enantiodromia in action. And here's the crucial insight. Your suffering isn't random. It's the universe or your psyche rebalancing itself. When you hit rock bottom, when you experience your deepest suffering, you've reached the extreme of the pendulum swing. And according to the cosmic law Jung identified, that pendulum must swing back with equal force. Storytelling element: the alchemical process. Jung was fascinated by alchemy, not because he believed you could turn lead into gold, but because he recognized alchemy as a metaphor for psychological transformation. Alchemists had a stage they called nigredo, the blackening. Everything had to be broken down, dissolved, putrefied. Only after complete dissolution could the rubedo, the reddening, the final transformation occur. You can't skip the nigredo. You can't avoid the breakdown. The caterpillar must completely dissolve in the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. Your suffering isn't stopping your transformation. Your suffering is the transformation. But here's where most people get stuck. They resist the process. They try to skip the suffering, numb it, run from it. And in doing so, they interrupt the cosmic law. They stop the pendulum mid-swing. Chapter 3. The Shadow and the Treasure. Now we get to the heart of Jung's wisdom. He said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Why? Because the treasure you seek is buried in the place you least want to look, your shadow. The shadow is everything you've denied, repressed, hidden away. It's the parts of yourself you deemed unacceptable. The anger you weren't allowed to express. The desires you were taught to suppress. The pain you learned to ignore. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow. But here's the paradox Jung discovered. Your greatest strengths are buried in your shadow alongside your greatest wounds. Think about it. Your rage might be passion waiting to be channeled. Your anxiety might be intuition you've been ignoring. Your shame might be protecting your most authentic self. Your grief might be the depth of your capacity to love. Real-world example. Consider J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter, she was a single mother on welfare, battling depression so severe she contemplated suicide. She's described that period as hitting rock bottom, but it was precisely that descent into darkness that gave her the depth to write Harry Potter. The Dementors, creatures that feed on your happiness and leave you with your worst memories, came directly from her experience with depression. Her suffering gave her the psychological and emotional range to create a story that's touched hundreds of millions. The depth of her darkness created the height of her success. That's the cosmic law in action. Or look at someone like Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning. He endured unimaginable suffering in concentration camps, lost his family, faced death daily. But in that deepest suffering, he discovered what he called man's last freedom, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any circumstance. His suffering became the foundation for logotherapy, a form of psychotherapy that's helped millions find meaning. The cosmic law. His deepest suffering produced his greatest contribution. Jung himself experienced a profound psychological breakdown that he called his confrontation with the unconscious. For years, he battled visions, voices, near madness. But he didn't run from it. He documented it, engaged with it, descended fully into it. And from that descent came his most profound insights, the collective unconscious, archetypes, individuation, active imagination. His greatest contributions came from his greatest crisis. This isn't about glorifying suffering. It's about recognizing a pattern. The depth you descend determines the height you can reach. Chapter 4. The Process of Individuation. Jung had a name for this entire process: individuation. It's the journey of becoming your true self, not the self your parents wanted, not the self society expects, but the authentic, whole self you were meant to be. And here's the critical part. Individuation cannot happen without suffering. Why? Because your ego, your conscious sense of self, is comfortable. It likes its routines, its familiar patterns, its safe beliefs. Your ego will never voluntarily change. Suffering cracks the ego. It shatters your illusions. It destroys your false securities. And yes, that's painful. But it's also absolutely necessary. Think of it like this. You're a sculpture trapped inside a block of marble. Suffering is the chisel that removes everything you're not, revealing who you actually are. The dark night of the soul. Many spiritual traditions talk about the dark night of the soul, that moment when everything you believed in crumbles, when God seems absent, when meaning disappears. Jung understood this not as punishment or abandonment, but as a necessary stage. The old self must die completely before the new self can be born. You have to lose yourself to find yourself. This is why your suffering feels so complete, so total. It's supposed to. Partial transformation isn't possible. You can't be half caterpillar, half butterfly. Practical framework. The 4 stages. Based on Jung's work, we can identify 4 stages in this cosmic pattern. Stage 1. The call, the initial disruption. Something breaks. A loss, a failure, an illness, a betrayal. Your comfortable world cracks. Most people resist this call, but resistance only prolongs the process. Stage 2. The descent into the shadow. You fall into darkness. Depression, despair, confusion, meaninglessness. This is the nigredo, the breaking down. You're in the cocoon, dissolving. Everything feels lost. Stage 3. The confrontation, meeting the shadow. Here, you face what you've been avoiding. Your pain, your shame, your fears, your denied parts. This is the most challenging stage. Many people get stuck here, cycling and suffering without transformation. Stage 4. The integration, rebirth, and reward. You integrate what you've learned. The suffering transforms into wisdom. The pain becomes power. The wound becomes a gift. This is enantiodromia, the swing to the opposite. This is your reward. But and this is crucial, you can't force stage 4. You can't rush it. The cosmic law operates on its own timeline. Your job is to fully engage with stages 2 and 3. Chapter 5. Navigating your suffering. Okay, so you understand the cosmic law. You recognize that your suffering has meaning. But how do you actually navigate it? How do you ensure your pain becomes transformation rather than just pain? Jung offered several practices. Let's explore the most powerful ones. Practice 1. Active imagination. Jung developed this technique during his own crisis. Instead of running from disturbing thoughts, images, or feelings, you engage with them consciously. You might write dialogues with your depression. Draw your anxiety. Have conversations with the parts of yourself you're afraid of. This isn't indulging the negative, it's giving your unconscious a voice. When you do this, something remarkable happens. The shadow material that seemed monstrous and overwhelming often reveals itself as simply wounded, neglected, or misunderstood parts of yourself. Practice 2. Symbolic understanding. Jung taught that the unconscious speaks in symbols, not logic. Your suffering is symbolic, it's pointing towards something deeper. Ask yourself, what is this suffering trying to teach me? What part of my life is this pointing toward? What am I being called to change or confront? A job loss might symbolize that your identity was too attached to external validation. A relationship ending might symbolize you've lost connection with yourself. An illness might symbolize you've been ignoring your body's needs. Practice 3. The transcendent function. This is Jung's term for the psyche's ability to unite opposites. When you're suffering, you're stuck in one extreme. The transcendent function creates a third thing, a new perspective that includes both suffering and meaning. You do this by holding the tension, not choosing between this is meaningless suffering or this is all good actually, but sitting with this is real suffering and it may contain transformation. Both can be true simultaneously. Practice 4. Finding your myth. Jung believed every person is living out a myth-archetypal pattern. Your suffering makes more sense when you recognize what pattern you're in. Are you in the hero's journey, facing trials before victory? Are you in the descent to the underworld myth, retrieving lost parts of yourself? Are you in the death and rebirth cycle? When you identify your myth, your suffering stops feeling random and starts feeling meaningful. Critical wisdom, what not to do. Just as important as what to do is what not to do. Don't bypass. Don't use spirituality or positivity to avoid your genuine feelings. Everything happens for a reason can be a way to avoid processing pain. Don't numb. Alcohol, drugs, endless entertainment, workaholism, these interrupt the process. The pain will wait for you, and when it returns, it'll be worse. Don't identify. You're experiencing suffering. You aren't suffering itself. There's a difference between I feel depressed and I am depressed. Don't mistake a stage for your identity. Don't rush. The cosmic law operates on its own timeline. Trying to force the reward before you've completed the descent only restarts the cycle. Your suffering has a pace. Trust it. Stay with it. Engage with it. That's how transformation happens. Chapter 6. The Reward. What comes after? So what is the reward? What comes after the deepest suffering? You become whole. You integrate your shadow. You reclaim your disowned parts. You become more fully yourself. But it's more than that. The reward manifests in specific tangible ways. Wisdom. You gain a depth of understanding that can't be learned from books. You know things in your bones. Your intuition sharpens. You see patterns others miss. Compassion. Having been in darkness, you can sit with others in theirs without fear. Your empathy deepens. You become a guide for others on the path. Authenticity. The false self has been burned away. What remains is real. You stop performing and start being. This is deeply magnetic. People sense and respond to your authenticity. Creativity. Jung noticed that after confronting the unconscious, people often experience bursts of creativity. The energy once spent maintaining illusions becomes available for creation. Meaning. Perhaps most importantly, your life gains profound meaning. You're no longer just existing, you're living your purpose, having earned it through the fire. This is the cosmic law fulfilled. The depth of your suffering becomes the height of your reward. Not because suffering is good, but because transformation is real. And here's the final secret Jung understood. Once you've been through this process once, you're never quite the same. You know suffering isn't the end. You trust the cosmic law. You know that breakdowns precede breakthroughs. You become resilient not because nothing hurts you, but because you know you can survive the hurt and be transformed by it. If you're in your darkest moment right now, hear this. You're exactly where you need to be. The cosmic law is at work in your life. The pendulum has swung to its extreme, which means it's about to swing back. Your suffering is not punishment. It's not random. It's not permanent. It's the first half of a cycle that ends in transformation. Jung spent his life mapping this territory so you wouldn't have to navigate it blind. Trust the process. Engage with your shadow. Stay present to your pain without being consumed by it. And know this, the cosmic law is undefeated. After the deepest suffering comes the biggest reward. Your breakthrough is coming. If this video resonated with you, do two things. First, like and subscribe. It helps us create more content exploring these profound psychological truths. Second, share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Your share might be the lifeline someone is desperately searching for. In the comments, I want to hear from you. Have you experienced this cosmic law in your own life? What came after your darkest moment? Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the hard work of transformation. I'll see you in the next video.